SCP-1958, a late 50s Volkswagen Type 2. Samba bus floating through the void of space, parked in a stable orbit around our sun. Inside are the skeletal remains of a single college kid named William and a pregnant cat named Millie. But this bus was built for four. Back in the summer of 1950X, these San Francisco beatniks decided Earth was entirely too mainstream. They modified the engine with a fuel cell based on theoretical physics, decades ahead of its time, sealed the windows with shatterproof acrylic, and launched themselves toward Alpha Centauri. They brought bongos, a guitar, a stash of heroin, and a water pipe. They did not bring vitamin C. William kept a diary. It reads like a man watching a road trip turn into a funeral. Jerry went outside to check the hull and drifted away into the void. Susan overdosed. Sam succumbed to scurvy, begging William to read him poetry one last time. William was left completely alone, staring out the window at the moon, realizing they hadn't even made it past our own orbital backyard. He sat in the dark, writing about how beautiful the stars looked, waiting to die. If drifting in space is a lonely death, being trapped in a digital box with thousands of strangers is a crowded one. SCP-1733. Purgatory isn't made of fire and brimstone. It's a Motorola DVR recording of the 2010 NBA season opening game between the Boston Celtics and the Miami Heat. The Foundation only stepped in because some Boston native started complaining on Facebook about a third-quarter technical foul between Ray Allen and Chris Bosh. A foul that absolutely did not happen in the live broadcast. Every time you hit play, the people inside the recording remember the previous playbacks. They are digital prisoners. At first, it manifested as mild deja vu for commentators Mike and Tommy. By playback 034, the players had memorized the opposing team's strategy so perfectly that the score remained 0-0 for minutes. By playback 045, everyone in the TD Garden realized they were trapped. They tried prying open the stadium doors. The doors withstood forces that should have shattered steel. Instead of just bedtime stacking their way through eternity, the crowd fractured. A cult called the Faith Keepers formed, burning cell phones at center court as offerings. By playback 112, people were throwing themselves off the balconies. Eventually, the Faith Keepers stormed the locker rooms, dragged Paul Pierce and LeBron James out, and ritually sacrificed them on the court, displaying their disemboweled bodies on the Jumbotron. The recording just keeps looping. SCP-4205. Junior researcher Wade Dalitz was sitting alone in interrogation room F99 on December 11, 1992. He looked at a computer monitor. He died. SCP-4205 is a pair of amber eyes belonging to a disembodied humanoid male entity. These eyes manifest in translucent surfaces, windows, mirrors, reinforced polymethyl methacrylate glass, and computer screens. If you make eye contact with those amber eyes, your brain activity ceases. The autopsy of the victim shows nerve damage across the amygdala, hippocampus, medial temporal lobe, and occipital lobe so severe it looks like someone ran current through the skull. Your brain undergoes the equivalent of a massive electrical shock and blunt cranial trauma simultaneously, just from looking at a pair of eyes on a screen. The entity only stalks people who are completely alone. The Foundation even tried putting SCP-682 in a room with it. The giant reptile just walked up to the monitor and smashed the computer to pieces, completely unaffected, before shattering every piece of glass in the testing site. SCP-1739. If you ever find an indestructible Dell Latitude D800 laptop, do yourself a favor and do not open the single executable file on its desktop named gofetch.exe. Running that little program brings up a prompt asking for a Unix timestamp anywhere between January 2004 and the present moment, and typing in a valid date makes you instantly vanish. You are transported back in time, creating a divergent timeline. Meanwhile, the laptop opens a chat client where the current user, designated Branch Prime, can talk to the displaced time traveler, usually designated Isaac. The laptop also plays a crude animation of a woman unchaining a dog from a doghouse and throwing a ball. In chat log 1739-25, a researcher named Isaac132 explained the cosmic joke. The universe we live in is being hunted by something that wipes out entire realities the way you'd step on a bug. The dog in the animation. This entity wipes out entire timelines just by passing its shadow over them. SCP-1739 is not a lifeboat. It is a highly elaborate special containment procedure. Every time someone uses the laptop to travel back in time, they create a doomed branch universe. A chew toy. The laptop throws a fresh universe for the dog to chase so it stays chained to the doghouse instead of eating ours. But not all containment is high-tech. Sometimes the oldest rules are the only ones that work. SCP-4000. Picture a brick fireplace filled with the burning, powdered bones of a red fox, a lion, and a baleen whale, all mixed with the feathers of a blackbird. That highly specific bonfire is Procedure 4000-Holloway, and climbing down the chimney right after drops you out of a dilapidated brick well and into a forest completely outside normative space. It is a woodland realm governed entirely by psychotic fairy tale logic. The entire dimension is an issue-class nomenclative hazard. You cannot use names, you cannot call the forest by a consistent title. You cannot name the entities that live there. Break this rule and your body pays for it on the spot. Agent Michael Ashley Vincent used a possessive phrase to describe a house he visited there. Years later, a massive brick building manifested inside Site-08. Michael's headless body was found inside, fused at the neck to an elk antler light fixture, while his face had stretched to cover the entire floor. The native entities undergo constant physical changes when unobserved. A feathered lion with a skeletal ram's head, a rabbit-headed creature offering tea. You must follow standard exploration protocol. Greet them formally. Do not accept non-physical gifts. You can't just barge into a native entity's house acting like some doorbell chud claiming to be Harry Dresden. Give one of them a name and they will wear it home. Your identity, your place in the real world, gone. SCP-3001. On January 2, 2000, at Site-120, Dr. Robert Scranton and his wife Dr. Anna Lang were working on the Lang-Scranton stabilizer. Seismic activity damaged the equipment. A Class C broken entry wormhole opened, and Robert fell through. He landed in a pocket non-dimension, nothing but black in every direction. The Hume level was 0.032. Reality was so thin that space and time barely functioned. Robert was stranded in a void of thick black gel, accompanied only by the blinking red light of a damaged control panel that fell in with him. Because reality was so low, Robert didn't need to eat. He survived in the absolute dark for 5 years, 11 months, and 21 days. His audio logs track his descent from panicked scientist to broken wreckage. He begged for his wife. Eventually, the low Hume field began to equalize with his body. He started falling apart, literally. His left hand turned into spiderwebs. He pulled his own thumb off like a cheap magic trick. His body passed through itself. He threw up blood from a stomach that no longer existed. He tried to kill himself hundreds of times. He lost count somewhere past 200, but the dimension wouldn't let him die. His body just floated back together, slightly less whole each time. By the end, he was begging the control panel for Anna's eyes, her lips, her brain, just to replace the pieces of himself that had dissolved into the void. When the control panel finally materialized back in Site-125 years later, it was covered in gray sludge and blood. Robert's wedding ring fell out of the mess. SCP-1730. It is generally a bad sign when a massive facility suddenly appears in Big Bend Ranch State Park, Texas, but it's worse when it bears the markings of Foundation Site-13, a place that was never actually built in our timeline. This architectural nightmare actually bled over from a parallel universe where the Global Occult Coalition took over the Foundation and turned Site-13 into a slaughterhouse for anomalies. Director Elliot Emerson built an incinerator called the Body Pit. They threw everything inside. Dr. Vera Hadley got sick of it. She sabotaged the facility, altering the records of a young boy named Elijah who subsisted on blood. Instead of incinerating him, the pit agitated him. The blood and biological runoff created an ocean of black sludge that birthed massive red-eyed leeches. A containment breach tore the site apart. Emerson panicked and activated the Thresher device, a wildly unstable machine that ripped Site-13 out of its native universe and dumped it into ours. Our Foundation sent in mobile task forces, mudslingers, game wardens, mole rats. They were decimated. A massive entity with 36 forearms and glowing kinetohazards floated through the server room, carrying a charred human strapped to its head with the word Emerson seared into its flesh. They finally sent in Samsara, a squad of cybernetic immortal clones named Irantu, Munru, Onru, and Nanku. They fought through crystal butterflies that shredded flesh, a giant flaming humanoid with a sword, and a towering deer god with 9 concentric rings of glowing crystals. The rescue mission ended with Captain Hollis laughing hysterically, firing her weapon into a gargantuan black mass of tendrils as the Thresher device fired up again, wiping the entire site off the map. SCP-2718. The Overseer Council brought O5-11, Roger Sheldon, back to life. He died of a stroke on Espanola Island in the Galapagos 18 years prior. They reconstructed his body from bone fragments and sinew just to get a password out of his brain. Roger came back sobbing. After 30 days in quarantine, the council restored him to office. He seemed fine. He wasn't. Months later, he confessed the truth to O57, Miriam Prather, and 052. Death isn't a peaceful void or a bizarre TikTok loop of "I'm your son" and "I'm your dad" on eternal repeat. Human consciousness does not leave the body. Roger felt himself rotting. He felt his skin blister in the sun. He felt insects laying eggs inside his tissues. As his body decayed and scattered into the ocean, his consciousness expanded to every atom. He felt himself being digested by birds and diatoms. He felt his mind stretch across thousands of miles, every mile adding a new flavor of agony. The pain magnified every single second for 18 years. There is no heaven or hell, just your body falling apart and you feeling every second of it forever. The overseers panicked. 05-8 demanded they declare human death a Keter-class anomaly. One member had a cardiac episode on camera. Another started pounding his shoe on the table. 05-1 shut it all down and ordered everyone amnesticized. Miriam Prather locked herself in a room and dictated the file, leaving the ultimate cognito hazard in the database. Knowing what happens after you die is the exact thing that makes it happen to you. That is the bottom drawer. The files that smell like ozone and dried blood. If your monitor starts displaying amber eyes or your laptop asks for a Unix timestamp, just walk away. My shift is over.